Imagine that your cargo is not an inert object. Imagine that it is a sleeping beast, a 30-ton coiled dragon with such violent internal tension that a single mistake can awaken it. Transporting a steel coil is not a logistics job, it is a balancing act on the edge of catastrophe. Today we won't just tell you why it's so dangerous, we'll take you inside the cab, into the driver's mind, and into the very physics of steel, on a journey where every mile is a declaration of war against gravity and chaos. Get ready, because this is no ordinary trip. A coiled dragon, the explosive physics of the coil. To understand the danger, we must look inside the monster. A steel coil is not born as a compact cylinder. Its creation is a process of industrial domination. It begins as a thin, burning sheet, a continuous river of steel flowing at temperatures capable of distorting the air around it. This sheet is driven, with brutal precision, toward a core around which it begins to coil. But it is not a gentle winding, like that of a thread. It is a process of extreme coercion, where rollers with the force of titans crush and compress each turn against the previous one, under pressures measured in tons per square inch. The steel, still malleable from the heat, yields and takes on the imposed shape. Then comes the cooling. And this is where the trap is forged. As it cools, the metal contracts. But it does not do so uniformly. The outer layers, which cool first, compress the inner layers, which still retain heat and volume. The end result is a seemingly still mass, but one traversed by monumental internal tensions, forces that push and counteract each other in a precarious and forced equilibrium. Imagine a giant spring, compressed to its absolute limit and welded in place so it cannot move. Or a steel snake coiled around itself with such force that every metallic muscle is on the verge of spasm. This coil is not a passive object. It is a storehouse of lethal potential energy, a kinetic bomb weighing 30 tons. Any insult, an excessive resonant vibration, a sharp blow, a fastening that allows even the slightest sway, can be the key that releases that accumulated energy. It does not explode with fire, but with movement, a violent release that can cause the coil to burst its moorings, unwind in a leap, or simply roll with unstoppable force. This is the true nature of the enemy. It is not the weight, it is the tension. It is not the mass, it is the contained fury. The game of death, the three styles of load and their nicknames. Faced with such a beast, the first and most crucial decision is how to do battle with it. How to place it on the trailer. There is no room here for improvisation or innocent personal preference. There are three paths, three philosophies of risk, and each bears a name that is, in itself, a warning cry. These nicknames are not trucker jokes. They are the bloody wisdom of the industry condensed into a single word. The first method is bluntly called suicide. The second is shotgun, and the third, seemingly innocent, is eye to the sky. Each name is a perfect map of the danger it poses. In the suicide style, the coil is placed with its axis horizontal and most critically with the eye, the empty center hole, pointing toward the sides of the truck, parallel to the sides of the trailer. The physics of the danger here are clear and personal. If the coil comes loose and rolls, its natural movement will not be backward or sideways in any significant way. It will roll straight forward, in a straight line, driven by the inertia of braking or acceleration. And what lies directly ahead is the rear of the tractor cab, a fragile aluminum and glass refuge in front of a 30-ton battering ram. It is a risk that is not shared. It is a private pact between the driver and fate. The shotgun style rotates the coil 90 degrees. Now, the eye looks forward. The game of death, the three styles of load and their nicknames. Faced with such a beast, the first and most crucial decision is how to do battle with it. How to place it on the trailer. There is no room here for improvisation or innocent personal preference. There are three paths, three philosophies of risk, and each bears a name that is, in itself, a warning cry. These nicknames are not trucker jokes. They are the bloody wisdom of the industry condensed into a single word. The first method is bluntly called suicide. The second is shotgun, and the third, seemingly innocent, is eye to the sky. Each name is a perfect map of the danger it poses. In the suicide style, the coil is placed with its axis horizontal and most critically with the eye, the empty center hole, pointing toward the sides of the truck, parallel to the sides of the trailer. The physics of the danger here are clear and personal. If the coil comes loose and rolls, its natural movement will not be backward or sideways in any significant suicide, the Faustian bargain of the expert driver. Given the above description, simple logic would scream that no one in their right mind would choose the suicide method. However, the opposite is true. It is the most common method, and many of the most experienced truckers defend it with the vehemence of those who know a bitter secret. Why? Because in this duel to the death with physics, suicide offers a paradox. It is the most dangerous in case of failure, but it can also be the most controllable when executed perfectly. The reason is twofold. First, operational practicality. Loading a coil in the suicide position is fast. A forklift with a simple concave ramp can approach from the side, slide the coil onto the trailer, and pull away in minutes. Second, and more importantly, it tests the securing process. In this position, chains or slings can pass directly through the empty eye of the coil. This creates an anchor of brutal efficiency. The chain does not just surround the beast, it passes through it, creating a central and extremely strong attachment point that takes advantage of the coil's own rigid structure. Furthermore, when lying down, the internal tension of the coil, that giant spring, is contained in a horizontal plane, which for many experts results in more predictable behavior during the trip, with less tendency to walk or vibrate in strange ways if properly secured. That is why those who master this technique do not see it as recklessness, but as a lethal art. It is the conscious acceptance of total risk, personal annihilation in case of error, in exchange for a degree of total control over the load. It is a Faustian bargain, where the driver exchanges safety for mastery, trusting that his skill, his experience in tensioning chains, and his meticulous inspection will be the dam that contains the fury of steel. There is no room for error, haste, or mediocrity here. One miscalculation, one overlooked worn link, one chain with the wrong tension, and the pact is broken. And in this style, when the pact is broken, there are no second chances, no stories to tell. Shotgun and eye to the sky when the customer and physics decide. But the road is not governed solely by the courage or skill of a single man. Often, the choice of method is forced by two tyrants, the physical dimensions of the beast and the whims of the paying customer. The shotgun style is usually not a choice of taste, but of necessity. It is used when the coil is so wide that, placed in suicide, it would protrude dangerously from the sides of the trailer, or it would be physically impossible to secure it properly through the eye with the available anchor points. It is also a common imposition from factories or final destinations. The way a steel mill loads its product, or how the receiving factory needs to unload it, whether with a bridge crane, side loader, or special tongs, dictates the orientation. The customer is in charge and the truck driver obeys, even if it means shifting the vector of danger from a personal front to a public one, risking half the world on the road, as the jargon goes. Then there is eye to the sky, the method that promises peace and stability. Its limitation, however, is numerical and economic. For light coils, usually aluminum or thin steel not exceeding 20,000 pounds, it may be feasible. But try this with a 30 or 40-ton Colossus. First, you need a monumental crane with special tongs that embrace the outer diameter of the coil to lift it and place it upright with millimeter precision, expensive and scarce equipment that is not found at every loading dock. Second, secure it. Traditional cross-top lashings don't offer the positive, non-slip hold of a chain through the eye. The coil can wobble, and the G-force on a curve could tilt it past the point of no return. Third, and most decisive, is utility. A vertically loaded coil is a logistical pain for the recipient, who typically needs the material in a horizontal position to unroll it on their production lines. Turning it back costs time, equipment, and money. In an industry where margins are tight and deadlines are gods, the eye to the sky is ruled out not because it is unsafe, but because it is impractical and uneconomical. That's why the balance tips again and again toward horizontal methods, towards suicide or shotgun, where efficiency and cost trump ideal safety. It's a stark choice, revealing that in coil transport, physics and the bottom line have the final say. Beyond man, regulations and the weight of the law. Faced with this trinity of dangers, the explosive beast, calculated risk methods and economic pressures, it would be naive to think that everything is left to the discretion and courage of the individual. The lethal art of the driver must exist within an iron framework, a set of rules designed to replace, as far as possible, the yardstick of experience with the precision of science. In the United States, this framework is called the FMCSA, the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration. Its regulations for transporting steel coils are not suggestions or best practices. They are law, and they are extraordinarily detailed. They dictate the minimum number of tie-downs, the type of material, specific grade transport chains, not just any cables, the tension capacity of each element, the angles of attachment, the correct way to pass the slings through the eye or around the body, and even the mandatory inspection points before and during the trip. These rules exist for a brutally simple reason. When a 30-ton coil comes loose, no hero can stop it, no emergency brake can save it. Steel has no compassion, it understands no honest mistakes. Therefore, the law attempts to eliminate error. It forces art to submit to science. It requires that reliance on personal experience be backed up by strength calculations, certified equipment, and standardized procedures. For the driver, this means that his job does not end with mastering the suicide technique. He must also be a meticulous accountant of strength, an obsessive inspector of links and shackles, a bureaucrat of his own survival. Because in the event of an accident, it will not be enough to say, "I am an expert." It will be necessary to prove that the law was followed to the letter. It is the weight of the law, a necessary counterbalance to the monumental and terrifying freedom that comes with having a steel beast strapped to your back. But mastering theory and law is only the first move in this deadly chess game. Because once the beast is on the trailer, the real battle begins. A war of engineering, military planning, and mental fortitude fought meter by meter in the terrifying silence of the highway. Engineering and strategy. The beast is secured. The chains are tightened according to the law. But this is when the real test begins. Climbing into the cab with a coil of steel behind you is not the start of a journey. It is taking command of a containment mission. Every meter of asphalt that unrolls in front of the wheels is a minefield of variables. An unexpected pothole, a poorly banked curve, a distracted driver who cuts you off. Here, theoretical knowledge and regulatory compliance merge with intuition, technology, and extreme mental coolness. This chapter is not about danger in the abstract, but about the concrete response. It is the chronicle of how man, armed with engineering, strategy, and pure will, wages a daily battle to carry the potential chaos from point A to point B, without all hell breaking loose along the way. It is the silent war waged at 60 miles per hour, where victory is a rival and defeat is unimaginable. The cradle of steel, specialized trailers, and the quest for perfect safety. Faced with the inherent instability of a coil on a flat floor, engineering responds with an elegant and comprehensive solution. If the problem is that the beast can roll, let's design a prison that fits its shape. This is where specialized trailers, such as the famous models from companies like Adams Trucking, come into play. These are not conventional semi-trailers, they are precision instruments. Their defining feature is an integrated cradle, a curved surface, a recess precisely molded to accommodate the diameter of the coil, which embraces it from below in an arc that can exceed 180 degrees. This cradle is not passive. It is constructed of reinforced steel beams that curl upward at the ends, forming physical barriers that prevent lateral movement. Its surface is covered with high-friction, non-slip materials, often hardwood slats or metal rubber composites, which bite into the steel surface to prevent even the slightest slip. The anchor points are not simple welded rings. They are solid structures, integrated directly into the trailer chassis, designed so that the chains pass through the eye of the coil at the perfect angle, maximizing the holding force. The safety they offer is almost surgical. The coil is no longer a load on a platform, but becomes a piece fitted into a mechanism. The risk of it rolling, even if a chain fails, is drastically reduced. However, this perfection comes at a high price and requires total commitment. These trailers are monogamous. Their specific design makes them useless for anything other than transporting reels of a very similar diameter. You cannot load machinery, containers, or palletized boxes onto them. They are single-purpose vehicles, a huge investment that is only profitable for companies that are exclusively dedicated to this niche. They embody the eternal dilemma of specialized safety. It offers superior protection, but at the expense of flexibility and with an initial cost that many smaller or more diversified operations cannot afford. For every cradle trailer on the road, there are dozens of conventional flatbeds carrying coils, relying on the art of lashing and the skill of the driver. The cradle is the dream of engineering. The flatbed, the reality of the industry. Battle plan, the route as an exercise in military precision. With the beast secured, whether in a cradle or on chains, the next step is not to step on the gas. It is to study the map. A coil driver does not choose the shortest route, but the least dangerous one. This planning is an exercise in military strategy where the enemy is the infrastructure itself and the physics of movement. Every element of the road must be analyzed with suspicion. Bridges are the first veto points. Their weight limits, often well below the 80,000 pounds of the rig, are absolute red lines. Crossing a weak bridge with 30 tons concentrated in a few square meters is reckless and can result in structural collapse. Secondary roads, with their sharp curves and insufficient banking, are lethal traps. A curve taken at an inappropriate speed can generate lateral forces that exceed the friction of the cradles or the tension of the chains, initiating a slow and unstoppable slide. Steep slopes, both uphill and downhill, are another minefield. On a long downhill, the massive weight wants to propel the truck forward, putting the brakes under hellish stress and increasing the risk of the load pushing the vehicle. On an extreme uphill, the strain on the engine can transmit dangerous vibrations through the chassis. Finally, heavy traffic is an ever-present threat. It's not the same thing for a coil to come loose on an empty country road as it is on an interstate during rush hour. The ideal route is a winding line that connects major highways in good condition, avoids urban centers, bypasses suspicious bridges, and prioritizes long straights and gentle slopes. At this point, the driver ceases to be an operator and becomes a strategist. A general planning the campaign of his armored column, knowing that the terrain will be as decisive as the strength of his own troops. The giant senses, technology and real-time surveillance. In this battle, the driver is no longer completely alone. Modern technology has arrived as an intelligence officer, providing eyes and ears where before there was only intuition and experience. The first breakthrough is tension sensors. These devices, integrated into the tie-down points or the slings themselves, constantly monitor the force applied to each chain. If during the journey, due to vibrations or sudden movement, the tension falls below a safe threshold or, conversely, rises dangerously due to a shift in the load, an audible and visual alarm is activated in the cab. It is an early warning, an electronic whisper that says, "Something is not right," long before the driver can perceive the problem in the rear-view mirror or in the vehicle's behavior. The second ally is intelligent geolocation. Modern routing systems do not just calculate distance. Connected to databases that record road conditions, they can suggest routes with lower vibration rates or avoid known potholes that could cause a sharp jolt to the load. In addition, electronic stability control, ESC systems and tilt monitors in the cabs act as a quick-reacting co-pilot. In the event of a sudden evasive maneuver, the system can apply individual brakes to correct dangerous swaying of the rig. The tilt monitor displays the angle of the trailer relative to the tractor in real time, alerting the driver to any abnormal suspension settlement that indicates a shift in the load. This network of sensors and algorithms does not replace the driver. It augments him. It gives him an extended nervous system along the 60 feet of his vehicle, allowing him to feel what is happening at the rear as if it were an extension of his own body. It is the bridge between human skill and the infallible precision of the machine. The invisible weight, the psychology of the man who carries a missile. And so we come to the heart of it all, the element that no steel cradle, no sensor, and no perfect route can replace. The mind of the man behind the wheel. The coil driver does not transport merchandise. He guards catastrophic potential. This truth accompanies him every second, from the moment the crane deposits the load until he unloads it at its destination. The psychological wear and tear is slow, constant, and profound. The concentration required is not that of a common long trip. It is that of a fighter pilot on a mission. He must listen to the sound of the engine and the bodywork, looking for a change in tone that indicates an abnormal vibration. He must read the truck's behavior at every turn, feeling through the steering wheel and seat whether the mass behind him is moving in harmony or starting to go its own way. His eyes constantly check the side mirrors, not only to change lanes, but to see the profile of the coil, making sure that its shadow, its relative position, has not changed. The analogy of piloting a guided missile is accurate. You have a device of immense power under your control, and your job is to guide it through a world full of unforeseen events, maintaining calm while knowing that a failure in the systems, or in your own judgment, will have terminal consequences. This pressure does not go away at the end of the shift. Many drivers admit to sleeping with one eye open, figuratively and sometimes literally. Stress builds up silently, manifesting itself in insomnia, constant tension, and a seriousness that drives away frivolity. It's not a job, it's a vocation of accepted risk. The driver is a warrior of the road, but his battlefield is mental. His primary weapon is not strength, nor even experience, but a steely temper forged in the daily acceptance of overwhelming responsibility. He carries lives in his hands, his own and those of others, and that burden, invisible but heavier than any coil, is what truly defines the profession. So the next time you see one of these trucks, slow and solemn in the right lane, with its giant cylinder secured by a maze of chains, don't just see a vehicle. See the final act of a two-act drama. If today you have looked at that coil truck with new eyes, if you have felt a chill of respect for the complexity and courage behind it, then this story has served its purpose. Subscribe, because on this highway, every load is a rolling legend waiting to be told. Take care and respect the giant and the man who guides it.